Welcome to TRN Podcast, episode 246. Today we're looking at an event that tragically overshadowed the first week of school in the U.S. and, well, deeply affected the entire nation.
It really has.
We're talking about a devastating shooting incident in Minneapolis. It raises so many questions and forces us to think about the profound impact of these kinds of tragedies.
Absolutely. And this topic, it really goes beyond just the facts, doesn't it? It forces us to look at the immediate effects on a community and also the broader meaning of gun violence in the United States.
Yeah.
Our goal today is really to lay out what happened as clearly as possible and maybe analyze the complex context surrounding an incident like this to give you a fuller understanding.
Okay, let's try and break that down. The basic facts themselves are just staggering. So in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on Wednesday, August 27, 2025, there was this horrific shooting incident at a Catholic school. And the tragic thing is it happened around 8:30 in the morning during a church service for the first week of school after the summer break.
Right, during a mass.
Yeah. For many people, the core question is just, how could something like this happen? Especially in a place that's meant for safety, for prayer.
That's exactly the question everyone's asking. And what makes this attack particularly terrifying is the way it was carried out. The attacker fired from outside through the church windows at the people inside.
From outside?
Yes. You have to picture it. It was a school mass. The kids were sitting there in the pews at Annunciation Catholic Church, probably hopeful on their first day back.
Yeah.
And they were just completely exposed to gunfire, helpless. This tactic, attacking from outside what's supposed to be a safe building during a service, no less, it's just a particularly cruel form of violence.
And it sort of bypasses a lot of the standard school security measures, doesn't it? Which often focus on threats inside.
Exactly. It presents huge challenges for those kinds of protocols.
The casualty figures are they're awful. Hard to even say out loud. 2 children, just 8 and 10 years old, were killed.
Just devastating.
And on top of that, 17 other people were injured. 14 of them were children. And what's especially worrying is that 2 of those injured kids were reported to be in critical condition.
Critical.
These numbers alone just reflect this immense suffering that's hit these families, the whole community. It's almost impossible to imagine the pain those parents are going through.
And then when we turn to the shooter, there's another layer to the tragedy. It was a man in his early 20s. He took his own life afterwards in a parking lot nearby.
Right.
Police believe he acted alone, and so far, they haven't announced a motive, which just, deepens the despair for the families looking for answers.
Right. The why is just hanging there.
Exactly. And there were apparently no major police flags beforehand, which really underlines how unpredictable this was. He had 3 weapons with him, a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. And police say he used all of them.
All 3.
Yeah. Having and using multiple types of weapons like that, it really highlights the shooter's determination, the devastating intent, and it helps explain the high number of casualties.
It's just, yeah. So the reactions, this is where it gets, particularly intense, right? Coming from all sides, locally and nationally.
Absolutely. Swift and widespread.
Lots of high-profile figures spoke out almost immediately. U.S. President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, gave information about the incident, and urged prayers for the victims and their families. He also highlighted that the FBI reacted quickly and was already on the scene supporting the investigation.
Yeah, those rapid responses from the highest levels are pretty typical for these kinds of national tragedies. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz, he also expressed his prayers on X, for the children and teachers whose first week was ruined by this terrible act of violence.
Right.
And U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem also called it a horrific shooting incident that her department was monitoring closely. It shows how quickly these events reach the top political levels and trigger this wave of national mourning.
Yeah, you see that pattern.
But beyond those sort of official condolences, there are also these deeper, really raw local emotions.
That focus on the local reaction, it's particularly telling here, isn't it? Because it was just so emotional, so profound, driven directly by the community shock.
Absolutely.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey gave this incredibly moving speech right near the scene. He emphasized the immeasurable pain of the families who lost a child.
I saw parts of that. Very powerful.
And his appeal, the line that really stuck with a lot of people and just captures that feeling of helplessness was, don't just say now it's about thoughts and prayers. These children were literally praying. It was the first week of school.
Wow. That hits hard.
It's such a direct, painful challenge to those often repeated phrases, isn't it? It questions the real impact of those words and calls for something more than just platitudes. It's a desperation looking for more than just comfort.
And Senator Amy Klobuchar, who has deep roots in that community, she added some really harrowing details that just underscore the horror of it all. Yeah, she spoke with a former staffer whose kids were at the school. She described how children were hiding under the pews, witnessing friends get hit, one in the back, another in the neck.
Oh my God. Under the pews.
Yeah. Those kinds of eyewitness accounts just make the trauma faced by the survivors incredibly clear. It's a shock that's going to embed itself deep in the minds of these kids, their families. It shapes how they see safety, their own community going forward.
It changes everything for them.
It really does. And the rapid response, you mentioned 65 police units, the FBI. It was a massive effort to control the situation, provide aid, but the psychological, the emotional damage that runs much deeper than any immediate security measure can fix.
Right.
It really underlines the need for long-term support for everyone affected.
All of this just forces us, really, to step back and look at the bigger picture, something we just can't ignore. This incident, tragically, it isn't isolated, is it? It's part of this disturbing pattern we keep seeing in the U.S.
Sadly, no, it's not isolated at all.
Just in Minneapolis alone, in the less than 24 hours before the school attack, there were 3 other shooting incidents. 3 dead, 7 injured in those.
That's staggering, that concentration of violence.
Yeah, this tragic cluster of violence, often in such a short time frame and close proximity, it just highlights how urgent the situation is. Makes you wonder if it's an escalation or just the grim new normal.
And when you connect that local context to the nationwide situation in the U.S., the scale of the problem becomes even clearer. Deadly gun violence is, unfortunately, part of daily life there.
It seems that way from the outside, certainly.
According to CDC figures, just in 2023, around 46,700 people died from gun-related injuries.
46,700.
Yeah. To put that number in a really sobering perspective, that's like almost 900 people losing their lives to gun violence every single week.
Every week. Wow.
That scale of loss often seems almost normalized in the American public debate, despite the incredibly destructive impact it has on families and communities across the country. It's a reality that's deeply embedded in American society.
It's an almost unbelievably high number, and the emotional weight of that statistic is just hard to grasp. And when we look specifically at school shootings, the situation doesn't get better. It gets even more frightening.
Yeah, the school angle is particularly heartbreaking.
According to the Every Town for Gun Safety Initiative, in 2025, up to August 22nd, there had already been 24 fatal shooting incidents on U.S. school grounds, resulting in 29 deaths.
24 fatal incidents just this year, by August.
Yeah. And overall, the initiative counted 90 incidents involving gunfire on school property by that date where at least 1 bullet hit the building or grounds. That's a huge number for the year so far. It shows how widespread this problem is, how deep the fear of gun violence runs in the daily lives of students, parents, teachers.
And this leads us straight to that core question about the causes and the gridlocked political debate that always seems to follow these tragedies.
Right. The debate that seems to go nowhere.
What's fascinating but also deeply frustrating is the accessibility issue. Handguns, larger caliber weapons, they're readily available in the U.S. Millions of them are in circulation. And particularly devastating attacks like this one, they always reignite debates about possibly tightening gun laws, but, well, there's been hardly any concrete progress for years.
Decades, really.
Decades. And it's not just about partisan division, though that's huge. It's a deeply rooted cultural and constitutional debate that often pits individual gun rights against collective safety.
The Second Amendment argument.
Exactly. The resistance from Republicans, and crucially, the financially powerful gun lobby, has effectively blocked reforms for decades. This lobby funds campaigns, mobilizes voters, shapes public opinion through targeted campaigns. It creates an almost impenetrable barrier to any substantial legislation.
So it's a complex mix of culture, politics, money, constitutional interpretation.
It really is a very complex situation.
Yeah, it's a deeply entrenched problem where the discussion often just gets stuck in these familiar patterns without finding real solutions. So what does this all mean? We've looked today at an unimaginable tragedy, one that struck deep into a community, took 2 young lives, injured so many children and adults, and all on the first day of school, a day that should be about joy, about new beginnings. It's an event that's sadly embedded in this much larger national problem of gun violence in the United States, which shocks us again and again and forces us to reflect.
And given these recurring cycles, the grief, the intense debate, and then the lack of concrete, effective solutions, It really poses a fundamental and urgent question for us as a society.
How so?
What responsibility do we bear? And specifically, what responsibility do our elected leaders bear? Not just to mourn and condemn these events, but to act preventatively in the future, to actually protect our children and communities from this kind of violence. It's a challenge that goes way beyond just short-term reactions and demands some really deep soul-searching.
That is a question that will likely stay with us as a society for a long time, and one that should prompt all of us to do some personal reflection. We want to thank you for listening and for your willingness to engage with this difficult but incredibly important topic with us today and to explore its complexities. Until next time.